The following is a presentation of the Missouri Sports Network.
Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Where They Now Wednesday here on the Missouri Sports Network, MissouriSportsNetwork.com, where everyone has a home field advantage. And as always, presented by Lyona Labor's Local 663 Building, Missouri. Certainly glad that you've tuned in. And as always, the Missouri State Highway Patrol remind us to take that 3 seconds and buckle up. It's 3 seconds that could save your life. It's 7 a.m. here on a Wednesday, and we're certainly glad that you are here and you are watching the original Where Are They Now Wednesdays. Don't be confused by the Johnny-come-latelys who have since went by the wayside. Playing on Sports and the Missouri Sports Network are your one source for not only what high school kids are, what Missouri kids are doing at the high school level, but also what they're doing when they reach the NCAA level. Guy Newcomb alongside Kent Mueller. And hey, we're going to ask you a favor. Do us a favor, just one favor. Tell somebody about this. Tell somebody about this and like our page on Facebook and go to YouTube, our YouTube channel, and subscribe. And again, I turn it over to Mr. Kent Mueller to talk a little bit about last week and what we got coming up.
Well, thank you, Guy. After weeks of discovering where our Missouri high school talent will be competing in the NCAA this fall sports season, last week finally arrived. Yes, the start of collegiate fall sports. This last week brought even more sports to that point in their schedule where their play actually counts. The goals, the saves, assists, the wins, and losses. First was women's soccer, then men's soccer got started, but Division I volleyball and football are now also underway. And we know what that means. That means that Missouri talent that has left home to play coast to coast, and of course locally too, is already doing great things. Some are topping off what has already been a great collegiate career. Others are breaking through and becoming known for the first time on the collegiate level. You will know the names of some of the athletes we highlight. They are the ones from your area in Missouri. Some played for you, some against you. And all the others, well, they are from elsewhere in Missouri, and they are representing your state very well. Some of these stories used to be told in the local press to you. Sadly, for the high school sports fan, that was becoming increasingly sparse, but no more. That is what we do here at Where Are They Now Wednesday. We saw a void in the coverage, and we have heard from you that it was a void that needed to be filled. There are just too many stories that deserve to be told, and we will get that started in a few moments. But now, I want you to help both of us out. If you aren't following us on X, please do so. You will get notifications of our content. Follow me, Kent Mueller, at plain_sports, and follow Guy Newcomb at Scoreboard Guy. Also, if you like this, then please give us a like. It's a small gesture, but it means a lot to us. If you like our content, then you know others will like it. After all, you aren't the only one in your friend circle who likes sports. So please repost this podcast and send it to your friends. Your friends and both Guy and I we will all thank you. We are ready, and we'll get to the meat of the podcast right after these words from our sponsor.
Things are a little tight for Terrence right now. But they won't be for long, because Central Bank makes it easier for customers like Terrence to dream bigger.
More room would be nice.
With mortgage solutions that can open the door to more space.
That's what I'm talking about.
For his growing family.
Growing family?
Honey, guess what?
You got this, buddy.
Welcome back to Where Are They Now Wednesdays here on the Missouri Sports Network. Guy Newcomb alongside Kent Mueller. And again, I had my mic muted. But hey, we're trying something new today. We're bringing up some photos of some of the young ladies that Kent's going to be talking about. So back to Kent.
Yeah, we will be covering all 4 sports eventually that have started in the NCAA, but we will start with some women's soccer. Our athletes go all over the country to perform in their sport. After all, there are over 1,100 schools in the NCAA. The reasons for an athlete to land at a particular school is almost endless. Most recruiting, every story is unique. Some want to play close to home, while some want to go out further to stretch their wings. Both of those are good reasons. Some are attracted to the most competitive programs, while some want a roster where they can be part of something being built. It's okay to some to go to a program where they will have to wait, maybe years to get on the field, while others want to get on the field as soon as possible. I haven't even scratched the surface of all the reasons why athletes choose to go where they go. And they're all good reasons because they're all individuals. Up first to discuss this week are 2 ladies, fresh out of high school, one from each end of the state of Missouri, who made the trek all the way down to the southeast to compete in Division I women's soccer. They are Maya Barr, a freshman forward out of North Point High, who is at the University of North Alabama in the Atlantic Sun Conference, and Presley McMichael, who also is a freshman. She's a goalkeeper at Lee Summit West, and she too is at North Alabama. I mentioned the desire to get on the field early. That is what Maya has done. Not a lot of minutes, but she is on the field as a rookie. After watching from the sideline in the Lions' season opening loss to East Tennessee State, Maya saw her first 5 minutes of collegiate action in their 0-0 draw with Jacksonville State. She followed that up with 8 minutes of playing time in another 0-0 draw by the Lions, this time with the University of Tennessee at Martin. We will be watching to see where Maya's playing time goes as the season progresses. Presley McMichael plays a position where few get to play a lot of minutes as a freshman. Goalkeeping is pretty much the domain of the upperclassmen. That is how it has been through 3 games for North Alabama. All of the minutes have been played by a graduate student. The other backup keeper is a senior. That projects a lot of opportunity for the freshmen out of Lee Summit West. Careers contain firsts that are important to an athlete. Maya's first minute on the field is a good start. Another good first is an athlete's first goal. Haley Braun is a sophomore forward and midfielder out of Nerix Hall. She's at the University of Northern Iowa in the Missouri Valley Conference. Haley was a 2-sport athlete at Nerix Hall as she lettered 4 years in both soccer and basketball. She became very familiar with the Missouri State Soccer Championship game. She played in 4 of those, coming away with a state title her senior year. This year, as a sophomore at Northern Iowa, Haley has increased her time coming off the bench each game. She got her first career goal as a Panther in the 42nd minute of their 4-0 win over Western Illinois on Sunday. Next up for the 1-1-1 Panthers is a trip to St. Paul to play the St. Thomas Tommies on Thursday. Audrey Goodyear is a junior defender out of Parkway South. She is now at Ball State University, which is in the Mid-American Conference. Audrey played all 90 minutes on the Cardinal back line for the second time this young season on Sunday in Ball State's 4-0 win over Eastern Illinois. That back line allowed only 2 shots on goal for the game. Emily Pacini is a sophomore defender at a Corhezu Academy. She is now at Bellarmine University in the Atlantic Sun Conference. Emily came off the bench to put in 45 minutes on the Knights' back line in their 11-0 win over Asbury. That is the 46th game played by the former Charger. Missouri Talent has helped Belmont University start off its season with 2 wins and no losses. Playing for the Bruins are Kennedy Burnson. She's a junior defender out of Fort Zumwalt West at Belmont University, which is in the Missouri Valley Conference. Maggie Garrich is a freshman forward out of St. Joseph's Academy, and Kate Vertle is a junior midfielder and defender out of Corhezu. Just a freshman, Maggie Garrich has come off the bench for meaningful minutes in all 3 Belmont games, including 41 minutes in the 1-0 win over Southeast Missouri. Kennedy Burnson has also seen time off the bench in each of the 3 games. Kennedy is part of that back line that has 2 straight shutouts. Midfielder Kate Vertle has started all 3 games. She has now started 35 of 41 games since she left Corhezu for Nashville. Mackenzie Duff is a graduate student defender out of Narings Hall. She's now at Clemson University in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Mackenzie has been doing things few athletes have done. First, as a marker back in her high school days, Mackenzie led her team to the state championship game not once, but twice. Not many get there even once. And also a rarity is how Mackenzie is not only in her 5th year of competing in Division I soccer, but she is still on the same roster she was as a freshman. That has become fairly rare, and I think will become increasingly rare in the future. Mackenzie suffered a season-ending injury after playing in just 3 games her freshman year, which resulted in her eligibility this year as a graduate student. After that, she has been on the Tigerback line in 59 games, starting 42 of them. Mackenzie has played all 90 minutes in each of the 3 games this season. In her collegiate career, Mackenzie has been an ACC All-Tournament Team selection and has earned All ACC Academic Team honors 3 times. Folks, we aren't just about Where Are They Now Wednesday and the Missouri Milestones list and podcast. We do a lot more around here, and that kicks into overdrive this Friday for the fall sports season. Guy, what are we going to be doing starting this Friday?
Well, I tell you what, we're going to be kicking off the season. Week 1 is this week for high school football, and all high school sports can play beginning Thursday. There'll be 6 high school football games on Thursday night. We'll have all those final scores. And then Friday night is Friday Night Live. And it begins at 9:30, goes to 11. Kent Mueller will be sitting at the scoreboard desk. Darren Archer will be adding scores, and we'll be updating them and visiting with coaches from around the state of Missouri. It's a fast-flying 90 minutes of live podcast, but it's a lot of fun, and no place else can you get all the scores and hear from the coaches in the state of Missouri, and even in the surrounding states. They don't have access to a lot of what we are able to do on Friday Night Live, but looking forward to it. But it's something else, and until you're a part of it, you don't realize how fast-paced it is.
Well, we'll get back here to what are women out of Missouri doing in Division I women's soccer. We have Jericho Friggin. She is a senior defender and midfielder out of Liberty High. She is now at DePaul University in the Big East Conference. And if you were looking for Jericho in Manhattan, you weren't going to find her there. Yes, she played 3 years at Kansas State after leaving Liberty High, but before this season, she made the transfer to Chicago to spend her senior year at DePaul University. Jericho has increased her playing time this year from her prior years and has come off the bench to play in all 4 of the Blue Demon games. As I noted last week, there are twin sisters playing their freshman year in college, Emma and Lily Wolf. They are freshman midfielders out of Narings Hall. They're now at Eastern Kentucky University in the Atlantic Sun Conference. That has to be a pretty special thing, sharing a locker room with your twin sister, not only all through high school, but for that to continue into college. That, too, is something few get to do. Eastern Kentucky has started this season with 3 wins, and their only loss coming at the hands of number 6 ranked Tennessee. They are a very solid team, and Emma and Lily will have been increasing their time on the field each game since the season started. We will keep a watch on these 2 freshmen making their way in Division I. We also have soccer players headed west to play in college. There are 4 Missourians on the Grand Canyon women's soccer team. Peyton Fisher is a senior forward out of St. Joseph's Academy. Taylor Gerst is a freshman defender out of Parkway South. Lauren Knox is a redshirt freshman. She's a forward out of Corhezu, and Hannah Smith is a senior forward out of Eureka High. Hannah started her collegiate career at St. Louis University before heading west after her freshman year. After coming off the bench the first game this year, and the forward started against Cal State Northridge. That was her 41st appearance and 25th start as a Lope. Getting a lot of time on the field early is Taylor Gerst, a freshman defender out of Parkway South. She has come off the bench in both games, but has already accumulated 115 minutes on the Grand Canyon back line. Lauren Seppi is a sophomore defender out of Nerix Hall. She's now at the University of Illinois in the Big Ten Conference. There is little room for error in soccer when your offense scores one goal. Illinois has won both games this year by a score of 1-0. One big reason those are wins is Lauren. She started 11 games last year as a freshman, and this year as a sophomore. She is an anchor on that Illinois back line. In the first game this year against Illinois Chicago, she played the entire minutes for the 5th time in her career.
Well, you look at all as you mentioned, these schools and high schools that are coming out of, there are a lot of folks from, a lot of young ladies anyway, from Nerix Hall, Corey Zoo. What kind of talk a little bit about that and what contributes to that?
Yeah, there are some schools with unusually large numbers playing on into Division I. That will be true for every sport, but Williams soccer appears to stand out when it comes to roster spots filled by Missourians. There are 206 Missourians who inhabit a Division I roster. Yes, that's just Division I. That doesn't count Division II or Division III or NAIA or the community colleges. I'm just talking about the highest collegiate level. There are 13 Missouri high schools with that have 5 or more graduates on a D1 women's soccer roster. I picked the number 5 because that would account for 1 per year for 4 years of competition plus a redshirt year. For those programs, producing D1 talent is an every year occasion. But some schools don't stop with 5 in Division I. Nerix Hall has 13 grads in Division I. Yes, 13. St. Dominic and Eureka are just behind the markers with 12 grads each in Division I's women's soccer. St. Dominic has grads in 5 conferences, including the Southeastern Conference, Big Ten, and the Big 12. Eureka's grads spread out a bit more as their 12 are playing in 9 conferences: the Western Athletic Conference, the Southeastern, the Big Ten, the Atlantic 10, and more. Eureka grads are there. Nerix Hall is also amazing, not just because they're now playing in 9 conferences, such as the Big Ten, Big East, and ACC, but they have the field covered, literally. They could field their own Division I team. It would be complete with 3 forwards, 3 midfielders, 3 defenders, a goalkeeper, with 2 more available to sub in. Missouri high school girls soccer clearly makes its mark in Division I of the NCAA. That makes for a fun collegiate season year after year. Now back to some more performances by our Missouri athletes. And speaking of Missourians in the Big Ten, there's Josie Pradle. She's a sophomore defender out of Clayton High. She's now at Indiana in the Big Ten Conference. The Hoosiers are 2-0 to start this season, and the Indiana defense has given up 1 goal in those 2 games. Anchoring that back line is Josie Pradle. She has stepped up into that starting role, averaging over 70 minutes per game. In soccer, like any sport, you can win a lot of games with a superior defense. Ava Fix is a sophomore defender out of Visitation Academy. She is now at Lafayette College in the Patriot League. Lafayette is 1-1-1 for the season, but have only given up 2 goals and has 2 shutouts. That takes a strong back line. Ava is an anchor on that back line for the Leopards. 3 starts is a good beginning for her sophomore year after seeing action in 5 games as a freshman. Missouri talent is clearly driving the success of the 3-0-1 Lindenwood Lions. Everywhere you look, there is a Missourian on the ball or defending the ball. Examples are Caroline Ritter. She's a sophomore goalkeeper out of Nerix Hall at Lindenwood, which is in the Ohio Valley Conference. The former marker has only given up 2 goals while going the full 90 minutes in all 4 games. She has executed 24 saves around those 2 goals. Rachel Jackson is a senior midfielder out of Francis Howell. Rachel has the 2nd most minutes played. That place is usually held by a defender, but she holds that as a midfielder. She has a goal and an assist, with the goal being a game winner. Jessica Dodd is a junior defender out of Marquette High. Jessica is a big reason the Lions have only given up 2 goals in 4 games. She leads the line of defense in front of Caroline Ritter in goal, being off the field fewer than 5 minutes per game. Elise Lamb is a freshman defender out of Timberland. Just a freshman, Elise has stepped in big time. She has only 5 fewer minutes on that back line than Jessica Dodd. She also, with Jessica, make up 2 from Missouri on that stout Lion back line. Allison Schrump, she is a junior defender out of Pattonville. Allison is the 3rd Missourian on that back line. Make it a sweep with local talent. She is averaging just under 80 minutes per contest. Lindenwood is undefeated, giving up a half of a goal per game. The 3 defenders are from Marquette, Timberline, and Pattonville, and the keeper is from Narix Hall. And the first Lion to sub in on that back line, well, that would be Sophia Mueller. She's a sophomore defender, and she is out of Kirkwood. The Lindenwood coaching staff stayed very close to home to build that defense. That is a great defense, but you can't win a game without scoring. There are 2 Missouri players who lead in points with 3 points each, and each have a goal and an assist. One is Rachel Jackson, the midfielder I mentioned earlier. The other is Tasneem Dizdarevic, who is a sophomore forward out of Gateway Science. Tasneem is in her 2nd year in the starting lineup. As a freshman last year, she was honored with spots on the Ohio Valley Conference all-newcomer team and the conference 2nd team. Next up for all of those Missourians is a trip to Kansas City to take on UMKC tomorrow night at 7 p.m. at Durwood Stadium. Next week, we'll take another look at what Missouri talent is doing in the NCAA. There will be a big variety of sports, as we will have women's soccer, men's soccer, football, and volleyball to review. And I can assure you that there will be some amazing performances to discuss. And as we wrap up today, I want to remind everyone of our Missouri Milestones project. We are midway through the building of what are already the longest, most detailed, and most extensive list of Missouri high school boys and girls who have scored 1,000 or more points in their career. Those lists have become so popular that we have added 3 lists for football and 5 lists for both boys and girls volleyball. It's easy to have access to our list. All you have to do is follow me, Kent Mueller, on X at @plain_sports, and by following Guy Newcomb on X at Scoreboard Guy. When you do that, you will get frequent updated lists and much more information. As I said, these lists have proved to be very popular. So much so, we have added to our schedule Missouri Milestones, the podcast. That airs every Thursday at 8 a.m. Tomorrow will be our 15th episode. What do we do in that podcast? Yes, we touch on what is happening with the Missouri Milestones list, but the feature is an interview with some Missourian or Missourians who are on one of those lists. It could be a current student who has crossed the threshold with more high school time left. Others competed in prior years, from recently to back as far as the early 60s. Each one of these interviews is a story of a Missouri athlete who has earned his or her way onto our permanent Missouri Milestone list. In tomorrow's episode, Guy Newcomb and I sat down with 2 men who are on the boys' career 1,000-point list. And we will be talking about more than those 2 being on the list. Those 2 did what they needed to do to be on the list. And then they went back to work at their high school where they helped many others to get on the list. I'm talking about Harrisburg High School. Steve Combs graduated from Harrisburg in 1991 after scoring a school record 1,898 points. He went back to coach the boys team in the year 2000. One of his players, Kyle Fisher, graduated in 2006, but not before he set the new school record with 1,997 points. Steve went on to coach until 2017. During his tenure, more crossed the 1,000-point mark. That is when Kyle Fisher took over the coaching duties. 4 more Bulldogs have surpassed 1,000 points since then, and 2 of those Bulldogs are Steve's sons, Cade and Trace. We'll have a lot to talk about as we hear their stories that cover the last 34 years of Harrisburg boys basketball. Don't miss it. It will air tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. And again, you can get notifications of that podcast and every podcast and other great content by following me on X at @plain_sports and by following Guy Newcomb on X at Scoreboard Guy. Guy, I really enjoyed the time we spent with Kyle and Steve.
Oh, I did too. And it was it was something that normally these interviews take to 12, 15 minutes. And this one went on for 30 minutes, and it felt like the time just flew by because they were so interactive with us, and it was kind of fun to see because the two of them won a state title together in 2006 as Coach Combs was the head coach and Kyle was on that team. Now Kyle is the head coach and Combs has gone back. He's retired. He's went back and he's sitting on the bench with him now over the past 3 years. It was great to see their interaction with each other and tell the stories, talking about Kyle Fisher's mom, who may have been the all-time greatest player in Harrisburg history there as well. So it's a fun interview. It flies by, and folks, you guys are going to know the names of the folks that they're talking about. It's 160 miles north of where we're sitting right here in the studio here in Bolivar, Missouri, but a storied program with 8 Final Four appearances since 1979, 2 state titles, a couple of second-place finishes, and they kind of reminisce because one and sometimes both of them were a part of all of those Final Four runs. So it's a great interview. I enjoyed it, and I promised the less I talk, the better, and I didn't hardly talk. So I encourage you to tune in and listen and watch as they interact with each other. You've been watching Where They Now Wednesdays here on the Missouri Sports Network, and as always, the Missouri State Highway Patrol reminds us to take that 3 seconds and buckle up. It's 3 seconds that could save your life. Also presented by Chevy Dealers of the Ozarks, Central Bank of the Ozarks, Doak Propane, Lyona Laborers Local 663, Great Southern Bank, and Calhoun Insurance Advisors. Hey, keep it right here. We'll talk to you soon.
The following is a presentation of the Missouri Sports Network.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the Missouri Sports Network here, the Missouri Milestones, the podcast, here coming to you live here on this Thursday morning. Certainly glad that you've tuned in, and as always, the Missouri State Highway Patrol reminds us to take that 3 seconds and buckle up. MissouriSportsNetwork.com, where everyone has a home field advantage. We go 160 miles north, almost due north, of the studio here in Bolivar, Missouri. We go to Harrisburg High School, home of the Bulldogs, and we welcome in Steve Combs and Kyle Fisher, both members of Harrisburg's community for a number of years. Coaches, thanks so much for being part of the show today.
Thank you for having us.
Yep. Coach, I got to talk to you guys. Have both been members of that community for many, many years, if not all your life. When were you guys first introduced to each other? What's the earliest memory? Because I know it's got to be at least a quarter century ago that you guys first laid eyes on one another. And we'll start with Kyle. Kyle, that's your question here.
Yeah, so I think Coach Combs came back to the community. I think his first year here was 99, 2000. Being from here, though, and growing up here, I knew him a little bit, definitely knew of him prior to him returning to Harrisburg. And so, I was probably a little too young to watch him play in high school, but, growing up in elementary school and then eventually into middle school, definitely knew of him. And whenever it was announced that he was returning to Harrisburg to be the head coach, I think I was in 6th grade. And so attended his youth camp over that summer for the first time. And I think that's really probably the first time that we got to interact with one another and that he was officially, my coach.
Coach Combs, you're a 1991 graduate. I don't mean to put an age on you there because I'm an 88. I'm an 88 graduate, so I'm older than you.
And you two are very young.
Kent Mueller alongside, as always, there in the bottom left of your screen. But Coach Combs, what are your first memories of Coach Fisher?
So I've known the Fisher and Mueller family, for generations here. I'm I think 4th or 5th generation family from Harrisburg, and I've known Kyle's mom and dad. I watched them both play in high school, and I've known Kyle since he was a little kid. Actually, as a basketball player, probably my first impression was my mother told me there was a pretty good fifth grader on recess when I was coming back, and the next year he was in sixth grade, and my mom taught here for 37 years, and she'd always give me the lowdown on who was pretty good, who wasn't, and Kyle showed a lot of promise even way back in elementary on the basketball court at recess, and so she told me. So I probably watched him play a few recess pickup games when he was in sixth grade. Probably looked out my window, and so I've known Kyle really since he's been a little kid.
As you look back on, your career, obviously you graduated in 91. Coach Fisher graduates in 2006. You got to coach him all 4 of those years. At that time, you were the all-time leading scorer in Harrisburg history. What was it like as you saw him say, you know what, he's got a chance to catch me? What are your thoughts there? And obviously you encouraged him because you won a state title together in 06.
To win a state title with him, that was definitely I was more than fine, okay, giving up that scoring title. I would trade that every day of the week. And then, Kyle was a special player for us, and got a lot of time as a freshman, and then became one of the main pieces as a sophomore, and just had an outstanding career. We're not huge stats people around here. I think it took us forever to even figure that out. There maybe even question whether he got 1997 or 2000. We're not 100% sure on that, but. The big thing is he got to host a big flag, and he was a heck of a player, and I was glad I got to coach him.
Take us back to that 2006 run. You ended up defeating, I believe, Marionville in the state championship that year. Take us kind of through that run on your way to that state title game.
Really, that's almost like a 4-year story because, Kyle's freshman year, we were able to get to the Final Four for the first time in my career, and the first time for a long time in school history, and ended with a 4th place finish. In the next 2 years, we had 2 outstanding teams. We had probably the best team in the state his sophomore year. Got upset in the quarterfinals to the eventual state champions, which they were a great team as well. And just kind of lined up the state title game in the quarterfinals. Next year, we were 27-0 in district final against another team that's 27-0 on their court. 2-1 ranked number 1 and 2, and so really. Thought maybe we missed our boat. We had just outstanding teams those 3 years in a row, and came back in Kyle. We knew we had Kyle, but everybody else was kind of unproven. A lot of kids that graduated. We had some kids that maybe had some starter roles, but one of our lead guards got hurt during fall baseball that year, and so we were unsure about that. And had a bunch of kids that had played some as sophomores off the bench, and decided that they were going to step up. Had a couple seniors that never had big roles that stepped up, and really one of those rides you kind of thought, like I said, thought you missed your window, but just had a magical season and just caught. We were good all year and just became great the last 2 weeks of the season and just went on a magical run. I think we knocked out, I don't know, Kyle, probably 4 or 5 top 10 teams on the way to a state title, and it was just a phenomenal way to get that first state title in Harrisburg history.
Well, you knocked off a Tipton team, who I'm sure is quite the rivalry with you guys up there right now in all sports, and then Canton, then West Platte before you got to Marionville in the state championship game. Coach Fisher, what do you remember about that run?
Yeah, Coach Combs kind of covered pretty much all of it. The thing I remember was, he alluded to it a little bit. My junior year in 2005, we lost to Salisbury at Salisbury. We were ranked 1, they were ranked 2, both of us 27-0. We lost them by 2 at their place in the district championship game. We didn't have really a whole lot of history with Salisbury up until that point. And then, when you have a game of that magnitude and that, just that much riding on that game, that kind of created a little rivalry right there. And so going into my senior year, we knew they were kind of the team that we were going to have to get by, and we played them early in the season at the MFA shootout at Mizzou Arena, and it was a good game. We lost by 10 or so, but it was one of those games that kind of gave us the belief that, okay, we can beat this team. We knew we were going to see them in districts, hopefully, and that was the team we had to get by. Played them in the district championship game and got off to a great start. And the thing I remember most about that game was just how big the crowd was, how great our fans were, and Salisbury's fans. We had both towns just really showed out. Packed Glasgow's gym, standing room only, and we were able to get by Salisbury, who I think at the time was number 2 in the state. And we went on to beat Tipton, who was 3, Canton, who was 4, and eventually, like you said, knocked off West Platte in the semifinals. And then Marionville, they weren't number 1 in the state, but if I remember right, they were the defending state champs. And so in a way, they were kind of the top dog that we still had to get by. And, it was if you look at the scores from our run there, we're scoring in the 60s and 70s most of our run. And then we got to Marionville and they slowed us down and tried to grind it out. And that's just the way that they won a bunch of games back then. We were fortunate enough to score just a few more than they did and hang that first flag and just a lot of special memories from that year and from all 4 years, and just a tremendous time for the school and community here in Harrisburg.
And Guy, I'll just add to that title game. I think Kyle had 42 that night, and that's the night he passed me as the all-time leading scorer. I believe that's right, Kyle.
District title game, yeah. District title game.
Salisbury. That's the night he passed me and had 42. And I think he had 20 of our first 22 points, and the other 2 points he assisted on. So kind of put us in his backpack and took us to the promised land that night. So it was really a great performance by him.
Yeah, Coach made the comment to the radio afterwards that he wished he'd known how many I had. He would have taken me out earlier, so I wouldn't break his record that night.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned Salisbury and Marionville, and I'm president of the Springfield Area Tip-Off Club. Mark Fisher, long time. I think he was at Salisbury, but was he on the bench in any of those years? You guys matched up with him?
I don't believe so. Is Mark the 8th? Is he the guy who's been AD down in Springfield for a long time? Is that the Mark?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I don't believe so. He was not on the bench then. No.
And Ted Young, Marionville, was Ted Young at Marionville?
Oh yeah, Ted Young. So the great story about that one. Ted, of course, he's just a defensive guru down there. We knew he was going to slow us down, and the crazy thing is, right before the Final Four, the West Platte game, Kyle had got food poisoning and spent the night in the ER, just sick on a dog the whole night. Came in on some adrenaline and played a great game, the semifinals. But he got got knee in the thigh, and so he was in the semifinal game, the last 2 minutes of the game. Probably should have had him out of the game already. So the next day we're playing the state championship game, and Kyle's battling, food poisoning, dehydration, contusion to his thigh, couldn't move very well, and that probably played a little bit to our advantage. Of course, Ted didn't know any of that, and he slowed the game down, and Kyle didn't have a whole lot in him. Still had 20, but if it had been an up and down game, I'm not sure if he could have made it through it. But I'm sure he would have. He was a warrior, but that kind of played right in our hands. That we kind of had a slow down pace, and all you got to do is win it by 1, and I think we won it by 2, 42-40, and just a great last game.
As you look at going back to that point and those moments, and Kyle talked a little bit. I'm sorry, Coach Fisher talked a little bit about breaking that record in that game. Do you remember what that shot was, or what was the circumstances around going over? And were you aware that you were going over at that point?
I'm not exact. I still, to this day, am not sure exactly what it was. I think we may have gone back and watched it, later that year and figured out it was a free throw late in the game. I knew going into the district tournament that I was, around what his record was, but at that time you're not thinking about trying to break a scoring record. You're trying to, think about win one more game and get to keep playing your senior year and not have your career end. And so. I knew I was close, but didn't know the exact number that I needed. And, so it was late in the game, and, Salisbury's, they were trying to foul a bunch, and I was fortunate to go to the line several times and hit a bunch of free throws. And I think, so one of those free throws, I think, is the one that put me over or that broke the record. And I didn't know until I came off the court, and Coach Combs' assistant, Davin Stidham, who was another former player of his. He's actually the one that told me that I broke the record. I'm not sure how he knew how many points I needed, or if he and Coach Combs had talked beforehand. I'm not sure, but he told me how many points I had and how many I needed to get the record. This was, again, after I'd come out and the game was over. And so, that was obviously a thrill. It didn't compare to winning a district title and, eventually, of course, the state title in your senior year. But nice little cherry on top for sure.
You bet. You bet. I know Kent's got some kind of historical questions because you guys are connected in so many ways. There's so many other people on that list. There may be 12 or 15 of those gentlemen on that list that you either played with, coached, and in both cases coached and played with. But Kent, I know you've got a couple questions.
Well, the list is long enough that, and I have to work off of some notes here. But it's incredible. I don't know if I have seen a situation where there are so many connections between people. And just to kind of chronologically, the way I see it is that, okay, Steve, you played with Todd and Travis McCubbin, who both scored 1,000. They're on your all-time 1,000-point list. And of course, while you're doing that, you set the school record. And then Steve, you come back to coach and you coach Kyle Fisher. He breaks your record. But he's not the only 1,000-point scorer you coached. I believe there's also Austin Mueller, Corey Villa, Brock Sublette, Jesse Gilbert, Tyler Akins, Derek Forbes, Josh Proctor, Brendan Gray, Tyler Rasmussen, and Taylor Perigo. And in that, I think you won 2 state titles with those guys. And then Kyle comes back to coach, and Kyle, I think you've coached 5 to 1,000, including 2 of Steve's sons. So I mean, the circle just keeps going around and turning and kicking out more high quality players. Some of those names? Tell us about a few.
So the McCubbin boys, of course, play with them. With their dad, Don, is also on that list.
Right.
He's one of the leading scorers, and his records. We were always wondered if he was one of the leading scorers. We try to to verify all of his information. Of course, Kyle's got some cousins on there. The Austin Muller is a cousin. Akins are a family friend. I'm not sure to the Blakemore, Fisher, Muller if they're all related as well too. But yeah, there's a lot of kids that are a lot of families, a lot of good families of basketball around here, and they've all produced pretty well. And so yeah, it's been we've been blessed with great players who like to work hard, and Kyle's probably got some more connections he can talk about there too.
Yeah, you mentioned a bunch of those names, and Coach Combs mentioned the 2003 team earlier, kind of the team that started that big run in the mid 2000s. 5 of those players, I believe, were on that 2003 team. Tyler Akins was a senior. Austin Muller, Jesse Gilbert, both juniors. Brock Sublette was a sophomore, and I was a freshman, and so. It had kind of unusual to have 5 1,000-point scorers on one team, and then we had 4 of those guys back, everybody except for Tyler that next year, and pretty unusual to have that many 1,000-point scorers on a team, and you mentioned several names. That's a trip down memory lane there. And I played Josh Proctor. You mentioned him. He was kind of the other lead guard on our 2006 state championship team, and Taylor Perigo, and was just a sophomore on that team. And there's a lot of good players on that list, and there's guys that took kind of different routes to get there. Corey Villa. You mentioned him. He basically scored his 1,000 points, and Coach Combs, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but he basically scored his in 2 years. Didn't play varsity basketball until his junior year, and then was an all-stater both his junior and senior year. And so you have guys like that, and you have guys like Austin and Tyler, who both played a lot as freshmen, and then just were super consistent players all the way through their senior years and scored it that way. And then you talked about kind of coming full circles. Coach Combs actually coached Cade. He was the head coach for Cade, Cade's first 3 years. And so I believe Coach Combs was Cade's coach when he got his 1,000th point his junior year. And then I was fortunate enough to take over Cade's senior year and had a great team. Cade had a great senior class with him and had another 1,000-point score in that class with Cody Carl. And then obviously just getting to coach Trace here. I was Trace's coach all 4 years, and Coach Combs sat on the bench with me for 3 of those years. And Trace had a phenomenal career as well. And Coach Combs, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think Trace passed Cade in his last game, in Trace's last game, and pushed him over the top of that list. But man, a lot of great players on that list for sure. And we've had a lot of Harrisburg's always been a big basketball community. In the last 25 years here, we've had some outstanding players go through.
Just to highlight a little more on Corey Villa, he had 48 points in the state semifinal game his senior year. I think he's second overall as far as in the Final Four game. And if I'd known and he's tied for second. If I'd known he'd left him in a little longer, so he got the second place by himself. Is it second or is it first place? I think it's second. I can't remember. But yeah, he had 48.
Yeah.
So.
I think it's second. I think he has the all-time record for maybe free throws made in a Final Four game.
Yeah.
Well, with the family connections that you described, I can only imagine how competitive out on the driveway pickup game after Thanksgiving dinner was.
Yeah, we're not even talking about the leading scorer. The leading scorer, we're not sure, is Kyle's mom, Gail, who's a 3-time All-Stater, and she is the all-time leading scorer on the girls' side. And we're not 100% sure on her points because that was back in the 80s. But yeah, she's the all-time leading scorer and arguably the best ball player of all time in Harrisburg history. She was phenomenal. So, Gail on the other side.
Very good. Well, I've had the great pleasures. We go around, the state interviewing, girls from Webb City. I got to visit with a young lady graduated at Marshfield, played at Kansas and at Mizzou, and now she's a prosecuting attorney in Northwest Arkansas. So if you're going through there, don't speed. I went to visit with a young lady who's a doctor out in Charlotte, North Carolina now. So the success of people, and it goes back to a lot of what you experienced in the team sport in basketball. And this next question, and we've just got a couple left. I don't want to keep you all day, although I could. But we'll go back and we'll start with Coach Combs. I'm going to ask both of you the same question. But Coach Combs, if you could go back to that, let's say 1987, your freshman year, and give yourself some advice based on what you know now in 2025, what advice would you go back and give yourself? What you know now?
Yeah, that's a great question. It just, a long time ago, we had, a couple of years there, I had some tough losses in, quarterfinals and district final. I had a coach, Dan Bachmeyer, who ended up coaching the girls here to a couple state titles at Harrisburg. And him and I worked together early in my career. And I was really down about those two big losses and thought, it was just devastating. And he's like, man, you just got to enjoy the process more than the outcome. You got to enjoy the ride. And, that's always been, it rang really true with me. If I could go back to, 1987 until that freshman that, I was on the Final Four team my freshman year too, starting guard, and just to enjoy every little bit of the process because, the end goal is great. And I've got a lot of trophies sitting back here of a lot of accomplishments, but man, the relationships and that I build with these guys and girls and just all my students I've had over the years, and just to enjoy the little moments a little bit more because it's the process that you really got to enjoy because it's, the wins and losses, I can't tell you how many games I won as a career or how many games I lost, but I can tell you how proud I am of all my former players and all my teammates that I played with and how great they've done in those relationships, and just enjoy the ride because snap of fingers and it's all of a sudden, instead of being that 14-year-old freshman, now you're that 53-year-old superintendent, and it goes pretty quick.
Coach Fisher, same question. If you could go back to that, 2002, 2001, freshman, 8th grader, what advice would you give yourself based on what you know right now?
Not to be boring, but I mean, Coach Combs said it, just to enjoy the process and, enjoy the practices that you get with your teammates. Enjoy the time you get to spend with your teammates, your coaches, because for 4 or 5 months out of the year and then a couple months out of the summer, that's your family. And you get so close to those guys. And, I was fortunate enough all 4 years of high school to just be part of super special teams, with guys that I still talk with daily and still see daily. And a lot of guys that are still big parts of our community here. And, as head coach, I'm going into my, I think, 9th year now as a head coach and 16th year overall as a coach and as an educator. There's each team, is special in its own way, and you form different relationships with different players on different teams. And And I think Coach Combs would agree with this statement. Coaching last year's team, we came up a little short of the ultimate goal. We had a great year, really good year, and a special year, and 24-win team, lost in the quarterfinal to a great Canton team on their floor, but that was a season that just because of how close those kids were, and how close he and I both were to all those kids. He coached a lot of them since they were in third grade. Because Trace and his group, coming up as seniors, he coached a lot of those guys since they were in third grade. But that was a team that I'll remember forever. We may have team. I may have a team later on in my coaching career that that goes farther than that team did, or wins more games. But I don't know if I'll ever enjoy a season as much as I did last year with how connected that group was, how great of kids they were, and how fun they were to coach. And so it's just things like that. And Coach Combs, we kind of talked after the season. He said the exact same thing to me that he just said to you guys about enjoying the process, and because you're not going to win a state title every year. You're not going to go to the Final Four every year. And so enjoy the process. And that, last year was just such an enjoyable year with how much the school got behind that team, how much the community got behind that team, and just how just how great of a year we had. I mean, it was one of the most special seasons in Harrisburg basketball history. And that's saying something, because we've had a lot of special seasons around here. But and so it's just things like that. And I think, knowing, understanding that last year about enjoying the process and just enjoying the time you get, that's something that I would have loved to have known when back in 2003, whenever I was a freshman, because that was a fun year as a freshman going to the Final Four. But those next 2 years with those heartbreaking losses, I wish I would have enjoyed the process a little bit more, because those were really fun teams as well. But that's something that I always think about each year.
Well, gentlemen, I've known of you, both of you, for a number of years, just based on what I do. But it was truly an honor to get to visit with you and look you in the eye. And, I've always said, people have asked me why I do this. And I said, well, I see a lot of stats. I see a lot of numbers. I see a lot of things, a football Friday night. And quite literally, I'll get 7,000 or 8,000 text messages. But I never get to look somebody in the eye and get to experience their voice and hear them and hear their pride in what they've done and what they've accomplished, and their enjoyment and being able to pass that on. But it truly has been an honor to visit with you guys today, and thank you so much for your time here on the Missouri Sports Network.
Thank you guys for having us. It was fun.
Yeah, you're always welcome. Come up see us sometime. We got a great atmosphere, and we seat about close to 2,000 people in our high school gym, and we got a couple of really cool events. So if you ever want to come watch some basketball, Harrisburg place to come up and watch, and we'd love to have you guys. Guy, Kent, thank you so much for having us on.
Well, thank you.
Have hospitality room, and scoreboard guy will travel.
Good one.
Very good. Gentlemen, thank you so much. You're watching the Missouri Sports Network at MissouriSportsNetwork.com, where everyone has a home field advantage. We appreciate you tuning in. And as always, the Missouri State Highway Patrol reminds us to take that 3 seconds and buckle up. It's 3 seconds that could save your life. Be safe, be smart, and be here tomorrow.
There's a reason Chevy is called the heartbeat of America. A heartbeat strong, steady, unwavering. Like the people who keep this country moving. Doing what they do best. Helping neighbors, pitching in, getting it done. For them, only America's most dependable truck will do. And every Chevy truck, like every Chevy driver, dependability comes standard.